Leading up to the premiere of episode 9 on June 19th, we'll be sticking to our half-spoiler-free format. Don't worry, we'll always give you a heads up before diving into the series finale, so you'll have plenty of time to click away if you're trying to avoid them. For now, let's talk about what the future holds for the franchise. Have we finally pushed Gooseworx to her limit? Is this really the end of our adventures within the digital circus? Or is there still hope that we'll see Pomni and the gang back in action? Then again, the story could take a completely unexpected turn. Today, we're breaking down the stances of both Gooseworx and Glitch. We'll look at whether it's actually a good move to let go of their golden goose for good, but more importantly, and this is what we do best, we're going to see if there are any loose ends in the story that might give us hope for a return somewhere down the line. Could a new batch of humans eventually find their way into the digital circus, bringing a whole new set of adventures and conflicts with them? We've already broken down all the reasons why Gooseworx has no intention of continuing the series, not even if she were forced to. But what about Glitch Productions? Would they really be able to just walk away from the show that catapulted them to global stardom? Surprisingly, the answer is yes, but of course, it's not that simple. Most likely, the digital circus merch and the use of its characters for promotional purposes will continue for a long time. We can compare this to what happened with another of their most famous series, Murder Drones. Even though its main plot has concluded, it remains a staple in everything related to Glitch and the indie animation scene. This is because every series from this company has proven to be a labor of love, built on respect for the creative minds and the production team that makes it all possible. It's precisely this strong bond between Glitch and the artists behind each show that allows them to keep using the characters. There's enough mutual trust to know they'll be treated with respect whenever they make an appearance. And because the artists who work with Glitch, in this specific case, Gooseworx, feel like a part of a family, the door is always left slightly ajar for us to see Pomni's adventures again in the distant future. It's similar to how we're currently getting a new comic and various projects related to Murder Drones, despite the main story being over. The same could happen with the Amazing Digital Circus once Gooseworx has had time to process the sour taste left by her experience with the fandom. She might gradually return with smaller projects if the public receives them well, and eventually, perhaps even bring us that long-awaited second season to tie up the loose ends from the finale. At this point, and without dragging out the spoiler-free section any longer, it's time to do what we do best: analyze and theorize about the most interesting points the series finale left us. So here's your official warning: spoilers for episode 9 are coming up. If you want to stay in the dark, now is the time to save this video for after you've seen the finale, or wait for the YouTube premiere. Alright, here we go. The finale of the Amazing Digital Circus, regardless of whether you liked it or not, was a pretty solid conclusion. It left just enough loose ends to let us dream of a continuation that stays true to everything Gooseworx and Glitch showed us across these 9 episodes, while still being a very self-contained and satisfying ending. That said, the most direct way to keep the story going for a new season is also the most obvious one: new humans appearing in the circus. This would kick off endless new adventures, but with a completely different purpose than before. Originally, the circus functioned as Kane's attempt to keep everyone distracted so they wouldn't think too much about their past or why they ended up there, and consequently prevent them from abstracting. Now that Kane has handed over control to the human consciences living there, he's opted to join in on his new friends' activities, slowly learning about emotions and genuinely bonding with each of them. This means the arrival of a new human wouldn't be like what we saw with Ragatha or Pomni. Now that they aren't forced to do anything they don't want to, they could give newcomers all the time they need to adapt to their new reality, and above all, provide all the answers needed to understand the world around them. However, the unpredictability would lie in the types of new minds entering the simulation. Some might be adaptable and resilient like Pomni or Kinger, but others might be more resistant to facing this new world, and the cold truth that they are just fragments of people who continued their lives in the real world. If a new human, someone very similar to the Jax we saw in the later episodes, were to show up, it would set the stage for some very interesting stories. They could explain the situation to him, reflecting on everything they went through when Kane still controlled their lives. This would lead to a wide range of reactions, like shame or regret from Kane as he remembers his mistakes, while feeling the support of his new friends who remind him that none of that matters now that he's learned from them. It's even likely that Pomni would try to be his emotional support during those moments of uncertainty, remembering that she already knew someone very similar to him, but who sadly found his redemption when it was already too late. I'm talking about Jax, of course. It's even possible she would show this newcomer Jax's abstracted form, so he understands the consequences of constant denial and closing himself off from the only people who truly understand him. This would be a massive opportunity to dive back into Jax's head once more, and if we're looking for a plot twist to give everyone a new purpose, we might discover that this new human was close to finding a way to reverse Jax's abstraction, something even Pomni, who clearly has an exceptional talent for adapting to this world, couldn't achieve. This would be a new light of hope to bring back the friends they lost along the way, seeking out every last secret hidden in the digital world. It would start a new adventure, where, although the characters we know would be more experienced and have fewer internal conflicts, a central point of the first 9 episodes, it would be fascinating to see them focused on a common goal, supporting each other, and especially looking out for their newest and most unexpected friend, Kane. It would be inevitable for Kane to feel remorse for not finding a way to reverse abstraction sooner, and he'd likely give his all in this new adventure, even if it put his own existence at risk. This would be a fascinating theme to explore, new facets of a redeemed AI's mind. One detail the finale didn't fully explore was exactly what CNA was up to. While we now know they aren't an evil company as we all first theorized, they're still quite mysterious, possessing technology that was incredibly advanced for its time. Learning more about the company and its most interesting employees, like Scratch and Kinger, would be a great way to expand the universe Gooseworx created. And speaking of Scratch, the hype and intrigue built up around this character since he was mentioned at the end of episode 7 ended up being a bit underwhelming, to be honest. His importance wasn't as great as Kinger led us to believe, leaving many of his motivations and goals up in the air. Most importantly, we still don't know many details about his real-world counterpart, Mike Doby, the name revealed to us in episode 9. Discovering the secrets of CNA and their projects, like new AIs created after Kane and his blue brother, would be a world of narrative possibilities, especially if they connected to Scratch and finally give him the importance he seemed to have at the start. This is just one of many paths the story could take if it ever returns. It's a hope we shouldn't dismiss, as both Glitch and Gooseworx left a specific detail in the void, literally. Seeing how the hatred and constant need for control seemed to stem mainly from the corruption of Kane's blue brother, the AI created to replace him that Kane ended up absorbing against his will, suggests that the second AI we saw in the Circus files Kinger modified might be more important than we thought. The ease with which Kane discards it and the little importance he gives it by simply letting it wander the void is a detail that could carry immense weight if they choose to use it. It literally leaves a potential threat, on the level of the Kane we saw in episode 8, roaming free. This blue AI could become the main obstacle in their path to uncovering the secrets of CNA and the simulation. Secrets necessary to restore or at least ease the suffering of their abstracted friends. This would force them to stop or reason with the blue AI, giving Kane even more relevance in this new story, as he's forced to confront his past mistakes, specifically not helping his brother and simply leaving him forgotten, so that he himself could finally be happy. This would lead to some incredibly emotional and dangerous scenes, especially since Kane's power and influence over the circus have drastically diminished. This little detail about the blue AI feels intentional, a trump card kept in case they ever want to revisit the story in the very, very distant future. Such a return would be a masterstroke, not only for Glitch to further capitalize on the global success of the digital circus, but also to market it as a massive hit of nostalgia nostalgia after making us wait so long to see these beloved characters reunited. Of course, there are plenty of other opportunities to expand the lore, like learning what that supposed exit Kaufmo found really was, or seeing those early days when the first humans arrived, Scratch and his fellow programmers. It would be a great chance to see Kinger and Queenie happy for a brief moment, and finally learn why she abstracted. What tragic event caused her emotional stability to collapse despite having her loved one by her side? All these scenarios, while they might feel unnecessary or like an attempt to stretch the story, would actually be great scenes that loyal, nostalgic fans would be more than willing to watch because of the deep affection we have for characters like our dear, tragic Kinger. Finally, looking back at CNA one last time, the mystery of why new humans kept arriving at the circus is very curious, but didn't seem to get much focus. The fact that Kane was surprised to see Ragatha appear out of nowhere makes it clear that, unlike in episode 9, where he personally creates bodies from the few neural scans he found, the arrival of new neural files was unexpected. For one of these files to be marked as obsolete, it means someone using the computer where this digital universe is stored had already tried to use it. Furthermore, the time gap between the appearance of someone like Ragatha and Pomni suggests that these experiments with scanned minds continued much longer than planned, whether by CNA or perhaps even by Mike Dobby, the human version of Scratch. It's a fascinating mystery that would make the Digital Circus universe much broader. We can continue to expand and debate all these theories, but the sad truth is that if any of this ever comes true, it will likely be many years from now, only once Gooseworx feels ready to create something in this universe again. We'll have all the time in the world to analyze these mysteries at our own pace. While the hope for more content and seeing these endearing characters again will never die, the truth is there's nothing more we can do. The decision has been made, and the least we can do is let Gooseworx have her well-earned rest. Fortunately, she left us with an amazing series that we can watch over and over again for many, many years to come.